A young man living off his father's wealth regrets kicking out his stepdaughter on the street when his dad's lawyer pays him a surprise visit. He didn't expect to find out that his father had removed him from the will. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video with your friends. It might brighten their day and inspire them to do good. Also, keep watching because an important lesson awaits at the end of the video. When Mr. McDowell entered the 70th decade of his life, his health worsened, and so did his worries. All thanks to his spoiled 24-year-old son, Jared, who was good for nothing. For as long as Mr. McDowell could remember, Jared had been living a carefree, frivolous life, soaking up the money. Only in his 70s did the older man realize he'd been so preoccupied with building his estate that he'd let his son off the hook too often. One night, he decided it was time for Jared to understand his responsibilities. So he asked his secretary to invite the young boy over for dinner. And well, Jared arrived in a terrible state. "Chicken curry. I love it," Jared exclaimed as he joined his father at the dinner table. The servants served them food, and Jared pounced on it. After seeing the state in which his son had arrived, Mr. McDowell couldn't even lift the fork. Jared's clothes were soiled, and he reeked of alcohol. "Slow down, son," Mr. McDowell said with a sigh. "The food isn't going anywhere." "It's just brilliant, Dad. You know how much I love curries. I could have them every day," said Jared, excited. "Perfect for a hangover." That's when he noticed the stern expression on his father's face and trailed his rant off. "Hangover?" said his father quietly. "Certainly. That's how you've been living your life." "Oh no, Dad." Jared brushed it off. So why this dinner?" he asked, taking a huge bite of the bread and avoiding the topic. "It's time for you to understand how life works, Jared," said his father. "You need to grow up." Jared smiled recklessly. "Come on, Dad. What's there to understand? I mean, everything's smooth. Wait, you're not sick or something, right?" Mr. McDowell cleared his throat and said, "I'm fine, son. You should be concerned about yourself. It's high time you take your life seriously, Jared. Find yourself a wife, have children. I'd really like to see my grandchildren." Jared coughed because he nearly choked on the chicken. "Wow, Dad, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm still kinda young." "I'm serious, Jared," said his father sternly as he rose to his feet. "You need to think this over, or I'll be forced to cut you off. Get yourself a family, be a gentleman, or leave. The choice is yours. Also, eat as much as you possibly can. This luxury may not last forever." The dinner was delicious, but the experience of it was awful for Jared. He had priorities his dad would never understand. Jared had parties to attend and exotic vacations to take, and he wanted to enjoy life to the fullest. But it wasn't until a few days later, when Jared was at a bar ordering drinks for a friend, and his credit card didn't work, that he realized the gravity of his father's words. Mr. McDowell had canceled his credit card, taken away his car, and cut him off financially. At that point, Jared was as desperate as a fish out of the water to find a girl for himself. He had some money that would last him a couple of days, and he needed to get himself out of his mess before it was too late. And he did it. Through his friends, Jared met a beautiful girl named Layla, who had a young daughter, May. Layla and May wanted a man's love and support, and Jared gave them that. He became a loving partner to Layla and a wonderful father to May. It was all a ruse to get back into his father's good graces, but he pulled it off. Jared's plan worked. 2 weeks later, he visited his father's house for dinner with Layla and May, and Mr. McDowell was glowing to see his son was getting his life on the track. "Jared is just lovely," said May. "He loves us just so much, and he is just so good to Mommy." "Oh, is he?" asked Mr. McDowell. "What do you love so much about him?" "He buys me ice cream, and he loves Mommy." May cheered innocently, and Mr. McDowell smiled with relief. "I love you too," May said Jared, cleverly executing his plan. "And I love Layla, Dad. In fact, I agreed to this dinner because I wanted to announce that I wanted to marry Layla. I couldn't have found someone better than her. I love her." Only a month later, Jared and Layla tied the knot, and Mr. McDowell gifted the couple a lavish home to live in. Layla thought her life was perfect. She had a loving home and family and the best husband. But that was before Jared came home inebriated one night and behaved like a monster. Layla was shaken, terrified, and wanted to escape him. Jared was still nice to May, but to Layla, he was everything a woman would be terrified of. Only for her daughter's sake, and because Mr. McDowell was a loving grandfather and father-in-law, Layla decided to put her pain aside, as millions of women do. She did what many of us would have done. She held her family together. But sometimes we women think too much from the heart, don't we? Those knots on the thread can always be undone. Those knots represent the wrongs we believe we can correct, while in reality, we can't fix them. That's what Layla went through 2 years later. Mr. McDowell and Layla were returning from his doctor's appointment when they were involved in a terrible car accident. Jared was supposed to accompany them, but he backed out at the last minute. Mr. McDowell died in the car accident, and Layla was hospitalized with minor injuries. Jared thought he could live on his own terms now that his nagging old father was no longer alive. As a result, he forced Layla to sign the divorce papers and kick May out on the streets. "Daddy," cried May, "why do you not love us anymore? You are hurting us again. You've hurt Mommy every time. I know that." Jared laughed coldly. "You and your mother deserve to live on the streets. And Daddy, you don't even deserve to be close to me. You and your beggar mother can return to where you came from. Think about how you'll afford your mommy's hospital bills." Jared was overjoyed with himself after kicking May out. He planned a lavish funeral for his father 2 days later, invited everyone he knew, and decided to celebrate his victory with his friends. Meanwhile, May promised Layla she would look after her, and the young girl begged on the streets for it. She actually did. As the funeral was over and everyone left, Mr. McDowell's lawyer, Mr. Kane, paid Jared a surprise visit, and he didn't have good news. "I believe you should sit down for this one, Jared," he said solemnly. "Your father, he changed his will a month ago." Then Mr. Kane revealed the will's contents, and Jared was shocked. "He left everything to my stepdaughter? To that brat? Why did he do that when his son, was alive?" Mr. McDowell never explained why, but he was in a hurry and asked me to make the changes as soon as possible, revealed Mr. Kane. "Please excuse me. I need to visit your wife in the hospital and inform her of the situation." Mr. Kane knew why Mr. McDowell had changed his will, and he told the reason only to Layla. "He was aware of how you were tolerating Jared. May had told him," he said to Layla. "So he left us everything." Asked Layla in tears, "You really did that?" Mr. Kane nodded. "He wanted you and Layla to have a good future. Honestly, I am happy he did what he did. I have known Mr. McDowell for ages. He was not just a client, he was family." While Layla and May were beyond grateful for what Mr. McDowell had done, Jared was busy hatching another plan. He brought a bouquet to Layla's hospital room and shed crocodile tears, hoping she'd forgive him and embrace him. But she was not going to fall for it again. "You were right, Jared," she said with a smile. "We don't deserve to even be close to you. We would never stoop as low as you. We would never hurt our family. You didn't even spare your dad. Get lost before I call the cops." Jared was left with nothing. Karma caught up with him.